The Grand Hall of the Galactic Empire's High Council sparkled with crystalline lights, its massive viewports showing the glittering expanse of their capital world's endless cityscape. Admiral James Walker stood straight-backed before the council, his Earth Defense Force uniform crisp and spotless. He kept his face neutral as quiet laughter rippled through the assembled alien diplomats. High Counselor Marcus, tall and silver-skinned, gestured at the holographic display of Earth's defense system. Admiral Walker, while we appreciate Earth's enthusiasm for joining the Empire, these defenses are hardly worth maintaining. Look at these primitive satellite swarms. They're practically asking to be swept aside. Walker's jaw tightened, but he maintained his composure. The hologram showed Earth's layered defense network, thousands of small, interconnected satellites forming an intricate web around the planet, backed by electromagnetic shields that rippled like the aurora borealis. With respect, Counselor, Walker said, Earth's defensive strategy has protected us for centuries. The satellite swarms are more capable than they appear. Another council member, Lady Bright, leaned forward. Her iridescent scales caught the light as she smiled condescendingly. My dear Admiral, I've commanded Imperial fleets for 3 decades. These swarms of yours would barely last minutes against a proper battleship. The Empire's resources would be better spent upgrading your entire system. The council chamber filled with murmurs of agreement. Walker noticed several members not even bothering to hide their amusement. One even typed on a datapad, clearly having lost interest in the presentation. Our defense network is designed to work as a single unit, Walker explained, pointing to the hologram. The swarms adapt and learn from each attack. The electromagnetic shields are using technology that's centuries old, interrupted Counselor Rex, his metallic voice sharp with dismissal. The Empire abandoned such basic approaches during our first expansion phase. Surely you don't expect these antiquated systems to stand against modern threats. Walker thought of the countless simulations run back on Earth, the years of refinement and testing. If only they could see the true capabilities hidden within those primitive designs. But Earth's military command had been clear. Their most advanced features were to remain classified, even from their supposed allies. We found that sometimes older approaches, properly applied, can surprise even the most advanced opponents, Walker said carefully. High Counselor Marcus waved his hand, and the hologram disappeared. We appreciate your presentation, Admiral. The Empire will, of course, honor its protection agreements with Earth, but we strongly recommend accepting our offer to replace your entire defensive grid with standard Imperial technology. Walker bowed slightly, knowing further argument would only make things worse. I will convey your recommendation to Earth Command. As he turned to leave, he heard Lady Bright whisper to another council member, charming how they cling to their outdated ways, like children playing with wooden swords. The walk back to his temporary quarters felt longer than usual. Walker's aide, Lieutenant Parker, fell in step beside him. They don't understand, sir, Parker said quietly. They think bigger always means better. Walker allowed himself a small smile. Let them think that, Lieutenant. Earth didn't survive the dark times by showing all its cards at once. Those primitive swarms have more surprises than they can imagine. He paused at a viewport, looking out at the capital's gleaming towers. Somewhere out there, the EDS Sentinel was preparing for its first patrol, carrying Earth's latest innovations hidden beneath its humble exterior. Sometimes, Walker mused, the best defense is letting others underestimate you. Parker nodded, and they continued walking. Behind them, the council chamber continued its daily business, its members having already forgotten about Earth's quaint defensive systems. None of them noticed the small satellite drone outside the viewport, its adaptive camouflage perfect as it recorded everything for Earth's archives. The stage was set. All they needed now was a chance to prove themselves. Captain Robert Stone stood at the command center of the EDS Sentinel, his eyes fixed on the sensor readings. Something wasn't right. The screen showed strange energy pulses at the edge of the solar system, too regular to be natural, too subtle to trigger standard alarms. Mr. Wilson, he called to his sensor officer, run another scan on grid section 47. Use the Earth pattern recognition systems this time. Wilson nodded, his fingers dancing across the holographic controls. The Sentinel's bridge hummed quietly, its mix of Earth and Imperial technology working together smoothly. Unlike the flashy Imperial ships with their bright displays and loud machinery, the Sentinel preferred efficiency over show. "Sir," Wilson said after a moment, "Earth pattern scan shows something interesting. The pulses match old Earth naval codes, the kind used for submarine warfare centuries ago." Stone smiled grimly. During his academy days, he'd studied ancient naval tactics extensively. Someone's trying to hide their movements using old techniques. They probably think we've forgotten all about them. The bridge crew exchanged looks. They all knew the Empire considered Earth's military history primitive and irrelevant. But Captain Stone had insisted they study every old Earth battle tactic, from ancient Rome to the Age of Sail. "Contact Imperial Command," Stone ordered. "They should know about this." Minutes later, the holographic image of Imperial Commander Hayes appeared, his metallic skin gleaming with barely hidden annoyance. "Captain Stone, what is so urgent that you need to interrupt fleet coordination?" Stone explained about the energy pulses. The Imperial Commander's expression grew more dismissive with each word. "Captain, those are simply background radiation patterns. Our advanced sensors would have detected any real threat. Perhaps your Earth-built systems are malfunctioning." "Sir, with respect, these patterns match specific Earth military codes. Someone could be." "Enough." Hayes cut him off. "The Empire's defense grid is the most sophisticated in the galaxy. We don't need paranoid warnings based on outdated Earth military theories. Return to your patrol route." The transmission cut off abruptly. Stone turned to his crew, noting their concerned faces. "Lieutenant Reed," he addressed his communications officer, "send a tight beam message to Earth Defense Command. Mark it priority, but use our backup channels. Keep it off the main Imperial networks." "What should I tell them?" "Sir, tell them." Stone paused, choosing his words carefully. "Tell them the fish are swimming against the tide." Reed raised an eyebrow, but sent the message. It was an old Earth naval phrase, warning of unusual enemy movement patterns. As they waited for a response, Stone walked to the Sentinel's main viewport. His ship looked plain compared to Imperial vessels. No gleaming chrome, no decorative lighting. Just smooth, dark hull plates that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Mr. Wilson, activate our passive scan array, the one based on Earth whale songs." The crew worked quietly, pride mixing with tension. Every system on the Sentinel had a backup inspired by Earth's nature. While the Empire mocked such primitive designs, Stone knew better. Earth's animals had survived millions of years by developing perfect sensing and defense mechanisms. An hour later, the passive scan results appeared. Red dots showed up across the display, moving in formation, ships trying to stay hidden. "Sir," Wilson's voice was tight, "I count at least 30 vessels. Big ones. They're using the solar wind to mask their engine signatures." Stone nodded, "just like old sailing ships using weather patterns to hide their approach." "Send another message to Earth Command. Tell them we have shadows in the sunset." As the message went out, Stone studied the tactical display. The Empire might mock Earth's defensive systems, but he knew something they didn't. Every primitive Earth technology on his ship had been chosen for a reason. Each one was a carefully crafted piece of a larger puzzle. The real question was, how soon would they need to show their true capabilities? The outer colony of New Armstrong erupted in chaos as massive ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Their hulls gleamed with the distinctive silver blue of Imperial technology, but they bore no recognition markings. The colony's basic defense systems activated immediately, but their shields crumbled under the overwhelming firepower. In the Sentinel's bridge, Captain Stone watched the emergency transmissions flood in. His hands gripped the command chair's armrests as more reports arrived. New Armstrong has fallen, Lieutenant Reed reported, his voice shaking. Nova Base and Hope Station are under heavy attack. They're not going to last long, sir. The tactical display told the grim story. A rebel Imperial fleet had launched a coordinated strike against Earth's outer colonies. Standard Imperial tactics. Hit hard, hit fast. Overwhelm the defenders with superior firepower. Imperial command is responding, Wilson called out. But their nearest battle group is 3 hours away. Stone's jaw tightened. And let me guess, they're ordering us to stay back and wait for reinforcements. Yes, sir. Commander Hayes specifically ordered all Earth vessels to remain in defensive positions. The bridge crew looked at their captain. They all knew what staying back meant, watching their colonies fall one by one. The Empire's superior defense fleet was too far away to help. Stone stood up, his decision made. Mr. Wilson, power up all systems. Lieutenant Reed, send word to Earth Command that we're moving to engage. Sir, Wilson turned in his chair. The enemy fleet outguns us at least 20-1. They outgun our visible weapons, Stone corrected. But they've never seen what this ship can really do. The Sentinel's engines hum to life, their sound different from the high-pitched whine of Imperial drives. Stone had always thought they sounded more like whale songs, deep, powerful, and somehow ancient. Imperial command is demanding we stand down, Reed reported. Commander Hayes says we'll be court-martialed if we interfere. Stone smiled grimly. Send them my compliments and tell them the hunting season is open. The Sentinel accelerated, its hull plates shifting color to match the darkness of space. Unlike the bright, obvious Imperial ships, the Earth vessel seemed to fade from view, becoming just another shadow among the stars. All hands, battle stations, Stone ordered. Activate the swarm defenses. Panels along the Sentinel's hull slid open, releasing clouds of microsatellites. Each one was barely larger than a human hand, but they moved with purpose, forming complex patterns around the ship. Enemy fleet detected, Wilson announced. Their sensors are having trouble locking onto us. The biomimetic hull coating is working just like the octopus skin it's based on. Stone nodded. Every piece of the Sentinel's technology was inspired by Earth's nature. Its swarm defenses mimicked schools of fish, its sensor arrays worked like bat sonar, and its reactive armor behaved like a sea turtle's shell. Sir, Reed's voice was urgent. 3 enemy cruisers are breaking off to intercept us. They're charging weapons. Time to show them what Earth's primitive technology can do, Stone said calmly. Mr. Wilson, initiate Dolphin Protocol. The enemy ships opened fire, their energy beams cutting through space. But the Sentinel moved like no Imperial ship they'd ever seen. It rolled and dove, its movements fluid and unpredictable, while its swarm of microsatellites scattered the incoming fire like schools of fish scattering before a predator. Return fire, Stone ordered. Show them why Earth studied the mantis shrimp's hunting technique. The Sentinel's main guns powered up, building charge in a way that would have made Imperial engineers scream in horror. But Stone knew something they didn't. Sometimes the old ways, the natural ways, were the best. The real battle was about to begin. The first Imperial cruiser's attack should have torn the Sentinel apart. Instead, the energy beams scattered across a shield that rippled like the surface of a pond. Shields holding at 97%, Wilson reported, surprise in his voice despite their training. The adaptive pattern is working perfectly. Captain Stone allowed himself a small smile. The Sentinel's shields weren't the rigid energy barriers favored by the Empire. Instead, they flowed and shifted like water, spreading out the impact of any hit. Earth's scientists had studied how water deflected force, how leaves caught the wind, how spider webs absorbed impact. The result was unlike anything in the Imperial fleet. Sir, they're trying to surround us, Reed called out. Standard Imperial wolf pack formation. Then let's show them what happens when wolves chase a porcupine, Stone replied. Activate the outer defense grid. The swarm of microsatellites around the Sentinel suddenly changed formation. Instead of their loose, fish school pattern, they formed tight, geometric shapes with points facing outward. Each satellite's energy field linked with its neighbors, creating a bristling barrier of defensive spines. The Imperial ships hesitated. Their sensors couldn't make sense of the changing energy patterns. Their targeting computers, designed to track large vessels, struggled with the constantly moving swarm. Enemy ships are launching fighters, Wilson announced. At least 60 small craft incoming. Stone nodded calmly. Release the defenders. More panels opened along the Sentinel's hull, but these released something new. Hundreds of drones, each one smaller than a human fighter, shot out into space. They moved like angry bees defending their hive, their flight patterns too random for Imperial targeting systems to predict. "Sir," Reed's voice was filled with awe. "You need to see this tactical display." The main screen showed what their enemies were facing. The Sentinel sat at the center of 3 distinct defense layers. The inner shield rippling like water, the middle layer of bristling microsatellites, and the outer cloud of unpredictable drones. Together, they formed a defense system that seemed alive, constantly moving and adapting. "The AI core is fully online," Wilson reported. "It's learning from their attack patterns." That was the true heart of Earth's primitive technology. While Imperial ships used rigid mathematical computing systems, the Sentinel's AI was modeled on Earth's ecosystems. It learned and adapted like a living thing, drawing on millions of years of natural evolution. The enemy fighters opened fire. Their energy beams splashed harmlessly across the Sentinel's defenses, scattered by shields that moved like waves, blocked by satellites that shifted like scales, and dodged by drones that danced like insects. "Multiple targeting solutions available," Wilson said. "The AI has identified weak points in their formation." Stone studied the display. The enemy ships still maintained their strict Imperial battle formation, clearly visible now that the Sentinel's full sensor suite was active. They were so focused on following their standard tactics that they didn't notice how predictable they'd become. "You know what sharks do when they smell blood in the water?" Stone asked his crew. "Release the hunter-seekers." A final set of weapons emerged from the Sentinel's hull. Unlike the bright energy weapons of Imperial ships, these were dark, sleek missiles that seemed to vanish against the backdrop of space. Their guidance systems used principles learned from Earth's greatest predators: sharks hunting by electrical fields, snakes following heat signatures, owls tracking the slightest movement. "Hunter-seekers away," Wilson confirmed. "Enemy ships are not reacting. Their sensors can't track them." The Imperial ships maintained their formation, still trying to trap what they thought was a simple Earth vessel. Their commanders probably expected the Sentinel to either run or be quickly destroyed, like the other human ships they'd faced. They were about to learn why Earth's animals had survived countless extinction events, why Earth's defenses had evolved beyond simple brute force, why sometimes the best technology wasn't about being the biggest or the brightest. Sometimes it was about being the most adaptable. The hunter-seeker missiles struck first. They hit the Imperial ship's engines with perfect precision, like a snake striking vital points. 3 enemy cruisers suddenly lost power, their bright hulls going dark against the starfield. "Direct hits on all primary targets," Wilson reported with pride. "Enemy fleet formation is breaking." Captain Stone watched as confusion spread through the Imperial battle group. Their rigid tactics fell apart as ships tried to dodge attacks they couldn't properly track. The Sentinel's swarm of drones and microsatellites had surrounded them like a school of piranhas circling their prey. "Sir," Reed's voice cut through the tension. "Imperial Command is demanding to know what's happening." Commander Hayes says. A massive explosion cut off his words. One of the larger Imperial ships had tried to fire its main weapons, but the Sentinel's hunter-seekers had damaged something critical. The ship's energy core overloaded, turning it into a brief, brilliant new star. "Show them," Stone ordered quietly. "Show Imperial Command everything. Let them see what they called primitive. The Sentinel's cameras broadcasted the battle in real time. They showed how its shield rippled and flowed, absorbing enemy fire like water absorbing impact. They revealed how its swarm defenses moved as one, like thousands of birds flowing through the sky. They displayed its hunter-seekers striking with deadly accuracy, guided by nature's most perfect hunting instincts. Enemy fighters are retreating, Wilson announced. Their formation is completely broken. Stone nodded. Launch the final wave. Show them the jellyfish protocol. The Sentinel's remaining microsatellites spread out in a new pattern. Threads of energy connected them like the tentacles of a massive jellyfish, creating a web that trapped and shocked any enemy ship that tried to escape. "Sir," Reed called out, "we're getting signals from the other Earth colonies. Their orbital cameras are picking up the battle. They're cheering for us." Stone allowed himself a small smile. After years of mockery, after being called primitive and backwards, Earth was showing its true power. Not with brute force or flashy technology, but with systems that had evolved from 4 billion years of Earth's natural defense mechanisms. "Multiple enemy ships are powering down," Wilson reported. "They're surrendering, sir." The main screen showed the remains of the Imperial Rebel fleet. Some ships drifted powerless, their engines killed by hunter-seekers. Others were trapped in the energy web, unable to move without being shocked by power surges. The few that still had power were retreating, their perfect formation forgotten in their desperation to escape. "Message from Earth Command," Reed said. "Admiral Walker sends his congratulations. And, sir, you should see these sensor readings from the outer system." The tactical display updated to show a massive energy surge. Earth's main defense grid was activating. Thousands of satellites, previously dormant and dismissed as space junk by Imperial observers, were powering up. They formed patterns across space, complex, living networks that made the Sentinel's defenses look small in comparison. "Send a message to the surrendered ships," Stone ordered. "Tell them to power down completely and prepare for boarding. And send another message to Imperial Command." "What should it say, sir?" Reed asked. Stone thought for a moment, remembering all the mockery, all the dismissive comments about Earth's primitive technology. Tell them that sometimes the old ways are the best ways, and that Earth's defenses weren't designed to look impressive. They were designed to work." As his crew relayed the message, Stone watched the tactical display. The Sentinel swarm continued their perfect coordination, herding the captured enemy ships like sheepdogs guiding their flock. Earth's orbital defense grid hummed with power, its true nature finally revealed to the galaxy. The Empire had laughed at Earth's defenses. They had called them primitive, outdated, and useless. Now they would learn why Earth's animals had survived everything nature could throw at them. Why evolution had created the perfect defense mechanisms over millions of years. And why you should never, ever underestimate the power of simple, proven solutions. 3 days after the battle, the Sentinel's bridge crew watched as the Empire's main fleet arrived. 50 massive warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, their weapons powered down but their sensors clearly active. "They're scanning everything," Wilson reported from his station, "focusing especially on our defensive systems and the orbital grid." Captain Stone stood calmly at his command post. Around his ship, the captured rebel vessels floated silently, surrounded by clouds of Earth's microsatellites. The Sentinel's hunter-seekers remained visible, a quiet reminder of how quickly they could strike. "Incoming transmission," Reed announced. "It's High Counselor Marcus himself." The main screen lit up, showing the silver-skinned Imperial leader. His usually confident expression had been replaced by something that looked almost like awe. "Captain Stone," Marcus said, his voice lacking its usual condescension. "Our analysts have been studying the battle recordings for 3 days straight. They have questions." "I'm sure they do," Stone replied simply. Around his ship, Earth's orbital defense grid continued its constant movement. Thousands of satellites flowing like schools of fish through space. "Your weapons," Marcus continued, "your defenses. They don't follow any known Imperial design principles. Our best scientists can't even track your hunter-seeker missiles properly. How is this possible? Stone smiled slightly. High Counselor, did you know that a mantis shrimp can strike so fast it creates light? Or that a spider's web, gram for gram, is stronger than steel? Earth's animals spent millions of years perfecting their survival techniques. We just learned from them. The High Counselor's eyes widened as more scans appeared on his screen. These patterns, your entire defense grid moves like a living thing. Because it is, in a way, Stone explained. Our AI systems don't use rigid protocols like Imperial computers. They learn and adapt like living creatures. Every satellite, every drone, every shield generator is part of a larger ecosystem. More Imperial officials joined the transmission. Stone recognized Lady Bright and several other council members who had mocked Earth's defenses just days ago. They watched in silence as technical readouts scrolled across their screens. Your hunter-seekers, Lady Bright said finally. They track targets like Earth's predators, don't they? And your shield patterns are based on how water absorbs impact, Stone finished for her. Nature already solved most of our defense problems millions of years ago. We just had to pay attention. The Imperial officials exchanged looks. Their mighty fleet, with all its advanced technology, floated powerless next to Earth's primitive but clearly superior defenses. The rebel fleet you captured, Marcus said, their commanders report that none of their targeting systems could lock onto your ship properly. Your armor somehow changed color and pattern. Like an octopus, Stone nodded. Camouflage is another gift from Earth's evolution. Much more effective than trying to outgun every opponent. Wilson's console beeped. Sir, Imperial ships are powering down their active scanners. They're switching to passive sensor modes like ours. Stone hid his satisfaction. The Empire was already learning, already adapting to Earth's way of thinking. Maybe now they would understand that bigger didn't always mean better, that flash and power weren't everything. Captain Stone, High Counselor Marcus spoke formally now. The Empire would be very interested in learning more about Earth's defensive principles. Perhaps we have been too quick to dismiss older, proven methods. We would be happy to share our knowledge, Stone replied. After all, the best solutions are often the simplest ones. Nature has been testing and perfecting them since life began. As the Imperial fleet adjusted its position, their formerly rigid formation becoming more fluid and natural, Stone thought about how far they'd come. The Empire had mocked Earth's defenses, called them primitive and outdated. Now they were asking Earth to teach them. Sometimes, he reflected, the best way to move forward was to look back at what already worked perfectly. 1 month after the battle, Admiral Walker stood once again in the Empire's High Council chamber. This time, there was no mockery, no quiet laughter. Instead, the alien diplomats listened intently as he spoke. Earth's defense systems have now been integrated into 3 Imperial border stations, Walker reported. Early results show a 300% increase in their ability to detect and intercept threats. High Counselor Marcus nodded approvingly. The massive view screen behind him showed Imperial ships practicing new formations, their movements fluid and natural like schools of fish. Earth's teaching teams had been busy. And the hunter-seeker production facilities. Lady Bright asked, her scales shifting with interest. How soon can we expect the first Imperial models? That's more complicated, Walker explained. You can't just copy the technology. Each hunter-seeker's guidance system learns from actual animal hunting patterns. Your crews will need to study Earth's predators first, understand how they think. In the month since the Sentinels' victory, everything had changed. Imperial engineers who once dismissed Earth's technology now spent hours studying Earth's wildlife. The Empire's rigid military doctrine had given way to adaptive, nature-inspired tactics. Captain Stone's report just arrived. A junior council member announced. The Sentinel has completed its first joint patrol with Imperial ships. They're already copying its swarm defense patterns. Walker smiled, remembering how the same council had laughed at those primitive swarm tactics. Now, Imperial captains competed for the chance to train with Earth's ships. We've also begun the upgrade of the Empire's main defense grid, Walker continued. The new satellite networks will use the same principles as Earth's orbital system. Less raw power, more adaptation and coordination. The counselors watched their displays as simulations played out. The new defense grid moved like a living thing, each piece working together in perfect harmony, just like Earth's ecosystems had done for millions of years. There is one thing we don't understand, Marcus said finally. Why didn't Earth reveal these capabilities sooner? Why let us mock your defenses when you were so far ahead? Walker's expression turned serious. Because Earth learned long ago that the best defense isn't always showing your strength. Sometimes it's letting others underestimate you, just like many of Earth's smallest creatures survive by appearing harmless until threatened. The council chamber fell silent as they considered this. Their mighty empire, with all its advanced technology, had been outthought by principles as old as life itself. The rebel fleet leaders have been questioned. Lady Bright reported, changing the subject. They admitted they attacked Earth's colonies because they thought our primitive allies would be easy targets. She shook her head. They couldn't have been more wrong. Nature's solutions are never primitive, Walker said firmly. They're tested by time and perfected by survival. Earth didn't try to invent better defenses. We just copied what already worked. As if to emphasize his point, the view screen showed the Sentinel patrolling with its Imperial escorts. The once rigid Imperial ships now moved with new grace, their formations adapting to space conditions just like Earth's vessels. The Empire officially acknowledges Earth's leadership in defensive technology, Marcus announced formally. From now on, all Imperial ships will incorporate Earth-designed systems, and he smiled slightly. We will be much more careful about dismissing something just because it appears simple. Walker nodded in satisfaction. Earth's approach had been vindicated. Their nature-inspired technology had proven itself against the best the Empire could offer. And now, instead of forcing their allies to adapt to Imperial standards, the Empire was learning from Earth. Remember, Walker said as he concluded his presentation, the creatures on Earth survived countless disasters, predators, and changes. They didn't do it with fancy technology or overwhelming force. They did it by being clever, adaptable, and working together. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each council member. That's not primitive. That's perfection. The Empire had finally learned what Earth knew all along. Sometimes the best solutions were the ones nature had already created. They just had to be humble enough to learn from them.